Good afternoon. So we're going to start our last session of the day before we close the Ag Day. Our last session is about globally important agricultural heritage system, GS, and how they can be part of a solution to address climate change. What are they? We're going to hear about different cases and different initiatives here today. But what we can say is that globally we have a large number of agricultural systems that we can qualify as remarkable, and because they are rich in biological diversity, or because they are a co-adaptation between rural community and their environment. And they are, in any case, relevant to sustainable development. Another thing that they have in common is that they are transferred from generation to generation. So that's what we're going to hear about today, and how these remarkable systems can contribute to finding solutions to climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. So we have a number of, we have 4 panelists this afternoon. First, we have Mr. René Castro, who is Assistant Director General for the Climate, the Biodiversity, Land and Water Department in FAO. Good evening, René. Thank you for joining us. We have Professor Mauro Agnoletti, who is the Chairman of the GIS Scientific Advisory Group of FAO, and is Associate Professor of the University of Florence in Italy. Good evening, Mauro. We have also Mr. King-Wen Min, Vice Chair of the GIS Scientific Advisory Group and Professor at the Center for Natural and Cultural Heritage Institute of Geographic Sciences and Natural Resources Research in the Chinese Academy of Science. And finally, we have Mr. Rashid Moussadek, Head of the Department of the Environment and Natural Resources, Natural Institute of Agronomic Research, INRA, in Morocco. So good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to start without any more delay with René. René, would you like to give a few introduction points to GIS from the FAO point of view?
Why the GIS are so important? First of all, they combine dynamic conservation, adaptation to contemporary conditions and challenges, with sustainable development on the sites. And we have 38 systems around the world in 18 countries. And essentially, they are based on small landholders, mainly producing for self-consumption, biodiversity-based and ecological agricultural systems. They are a source of time-tested knowledge on landscape and natural resources management, climate-resilient systems, thanks to water management, healthier soils, crop diversity, locally adapted varieties, relying on women traditional knowledge, rich in culture, agriculture. And what we define is a remarkable land use system and landscape rich in globally significant biological diversity, evolving from the co-adaptation of a community with its environment and its needs and aspirations for sustainable development. Many just have achieved this by low-level use of chemicals, inputs, and energy consumption, ingenious knowledge to adapt to changing environment. So they are both contributing to mitigation and adaptation for climate change. We use 5 criteria, and we have here the experts. Food and livelihood security, agro-biodiversity, local and traditional knowledge systems, cultures, value system, and social organizations, and landscape and seascape features. Integration of these factors, plus time-tested technologies and practices, so we know that they are resilient against extreme weather conditions, and is also an approach for risk mitigation capacity against crop failures. So we are proud that we have this systems to show to the world, and we hope they will evolve now. We want to connect them to facilitate farmer to farmer, to facilitate to the consumers access to the products and the services produced in these systems, and to increase the number from 38 to a significant number all over the world. So enjoy these examples, and we will be happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you, René, for this very relevant introduction and setting the scene. So I would like to invite Professor Mauro Agnoletti, chairman of the GIS Scientific Advisory Group, and he's going to tell us about some of these systems in Italy and what are the lessons learned for adaptation and mitigation. Thank you, Mauro.
Thank you very much. I'm also very happy to speak about this topic in this environment that for all of us is quite new. We used to stay in different contexts, so this is really exciting. Concerning Italy, the interest for this traditional landscape started with the National Plan for Rural Development 2007-2013, where a commission was established to include landscape, considering how the system contributed to the competitiveness of the rural territory, to environment quality, and to quality of life. In the national plan, we developed a state of the knowledge report analyzing the state of the landscape. We noticed that there were ongoing process of degradation affected this landscape. Namely, they were actually affected by abandonment and by industrialization, and also there were nothing in place to preserve them. Usually, in Italy at least, protected areas protect natural habitat, not rural landscape. Then we prepare a document with strategy and action for the regional rural development plans according to the common agricultural policy. And we, in the following year, we started to analyze how the regional government replied to our indication, and we were not very happy because perhaps they did not really understood what we were aiming to. So we wanted to have them to preserve the system, and we understood that they didn't really know what we were talking about. So for this reason, we developed an investigation to identify these types of landscape all across the national territory in order to provide example and to see how was the state of their conservation and give back to the region some more specific indication. And this activity was very successful. After the presentation of this report, there was an important return from all these regional governments, so we could establish the National Observatory of Rural Landscape, which is an institution taking care of a number of things concerning the landscape. We established formally the National Register of Historic Landscape and Traditional Agricultural Practices, by a law, a national law, and we established also a national monitoring system for this landscape. In 2014, we had the introduction of historical landscape in the indicators of well-being by the National Statistical Agency. So today, the quality of life, it's also addressed with this indicator. So landscape and quality has been included in the quality of life of the Italian population. And then we develop an activity contributing to a conference for the implementation of the UNESCO CBD joint program on the linkages between cultural and biological diversity, developing the Florence Declaration on Biocultural Diversity. This to create a framework where we could better understand the relationship between nature and culture and what kind of biodiversity pertain to this kind of landscapes. And finally, in 2016, we developed a memorandum of understanding with the FAO GIS program. So this landscape were located all across the Italian territory and mapped at a very fine scale, 500 square meters, because these are all very fine-grained landscape, make very small cultivations. And the example of many are many. I can only concentrate on some of them. We have, for instance, the Etruscan mixed cultivation developed in the 7th century before Christ. Mostly these are rows of trees having putting together vines and trees and other crops like wheat and also made for producing wood and leaves and vegetables. Normally these systems see the vines that are tied to the trees trees stand very high up close to the sun. This is because the vines don't like humidity, and this system developed mostly in humid areas. So it is a way of understanding the feature of the environment and adapt it in order to produce. And this is something that you see has been there and is still there since at least more than 2,000 years. A different thing is what we have in the south of Italy. In the south of Italy, we have system developed according to a Greek-style way of producing wine. We had the wines with the vine trees with the branches low down on the soil. Why? Because the climate is hotter, and so keeping the vines down, they can take advantage of the heat of the soil, and this will increase the ripening process of the vines. So you see two different methods, two different history, two different culture, two different understanding of the environmental condition, and once again, a system which is in place since more than 2,000 years. Other example, like this olive orchard that has been excavated in the rocks. I mean, the people have been climbing mountains and breaking the stones of the mountains and planting the olive trees inside for surviving. They didn't have enough soil, so the soil was brought from the valley on basket, and we will fill these holes dug in breaking the rocks with earth, and then they will plant an olive trees. Once it's more tree olive trees here in Puglia, in the southern part of Italy. We have about 250,000 century-old olive trees. They're producing, and the simple fact that they survive for all this time, surviving to many different environmental adversities, they have story to tell us. And so how this plant, domesticated plants, they're not wild, were able to survive for such a long time and give us the production that we need. Another interesting example comes from these Panteschi gardens in the Pantelleria island between Sicily and Africa. They have an Arab origin. They are made of stones, dry stones, 3-4 meters high. Inside these gardens, you plant an orange tree or lemon trees, and they can survive inside these gardens, but they die if you cultivate them outside. They can survive without irrigation, so this system are able to control the temperature, and actually all this structure made with dry stone works collecting the heat of the sun during the day when it's hot and releasing this heat during the night. So they create a special microclimate. They can control the water, and also they can reduce the effect of the wind. We are trying to study this system, putting lots of logs and kind of remote sensing technique to understand how this system works. This is just the challenge that we have. We know very little about how this system are actually working. Coming to another aspect, which are forests. In Italy, we had a lot of chestnut orchards that are cultivated from 50 meters above the sea level up to 1,500 meters above the sea level, almost everywhere. And these are able to provide multiple crops: flower, bark, timber, charcoal, leaves, grass for grazing. And flower production was very important because at this altitude on the mountain, you were not able to produce a lot of wheat. So if you compare the wheat production that you see in blue with the chestnut flower production, the chestnut flower is much higher in terms of production. If you compare the energy in terms of calories produced per hectare, once again, the chestnut trees provide an higher amount of calories for the population. Other system where this kind of system that you see in the north of Italy, a way of arranging the land to drain the excess of water. This was made in Mantova in the 16th century, and they're still in place. The farmers still use it. So when it's raining too much, this way of arranging the land is reducing the excess of rain. And just to speak briefly about the Tuscany, we have these dry stone terraces that are, let's say, all over Italy. Italy is a mountainous country. 75% are hills and mountains, but in Tuscany we go up to 90%. So how to cultivate on the mountain slopes? This was a way people cultivate the mountain slopes. And what is the advantage of the way of cultivating? Traditional terraces, you see on the left of the slide, they had an erosion of 25 tons per hectare in a year, while instead the modern industrial technique, which is to cultivate uphill with big tractors, is producing an erosion of 215 tons per hectare a year. So there are some advantages in using these systems. And more in general, we can say that these traditional agricultural landscapes are more efficient in terms of energy. Modern agriculture is more productive per hectare, but less efficient. We are making studies comparing this input and output of energy in the same place according to two different periods, 1861, 1954, and 2002. We can see that, of course, we have improved the yield that we have, but the amount of energy required to produce more is not proportional. So we are putting much more energy in the system compared to the amount of food that we are producing. And another point is that this system today depends on external inputs, while the old system were almost self-sufficient. And another important aspect of this traditional system, you can cultivate even high mountains, and you have much more land uses, so diversified land uses that can better resist to different risks and adversities that you have with a climate level. And in 1832, we had 65 land uses in 1,000 hectares on this mountain in Tuscany, while today we have only 17. So this diversification creates also a high biodiversity in terms of landscape mosaic. This is an interesting feature that we can find in different landscapes that we've been studied. We've been making a research in Cuba, in Morocco, and in the south of Italy, and all of them show to have a common feature. Although in very different environment, in very different socioeconomic system, they all have a high complexity of this landscape made of many different land uses. So this is something that keeps together this system in very different places. And here we have a more specific case, concerning terraces and hydrogeological risk. We have the Cinque Terre area, which is the north of Italy in Liguria region. We have a huge environmental disaster in 2011. In 6 hours, we have 542 millimeters of rain. Normally, the average rain per year is 1,200 millimeters. Consider that in Italy, we have 500 landslides per year. So the study that we made in this area was to analyze 80 big landslides occur in the area in this day, and see what was there before and what the situation afterwards, and to analyze exactly where this landslide occurred. So the results were shocking for us. As a background, I'm a forester. Landslides occur on wooded slopes are 58% of the total. Landslides occur on abandoned stone terraces, 27.3%. Landslides occur on managed stone terraces, only 5.8%. So the effectiveness of the system on this very steep slope seems to be higher than what we thought. But the point is, how is possible that this is happening? What do we have in terms of scientific knowledge about the system? We have quite very little, and we started to study more the slope of the feature, understanding how these terrace systems were built and on which slope, up to 70%. It's not easy to cultivate on a slope of 70%. And to study also the water runoff, how it's working in terms of drainage, in terms of reducing the runoff, how the system, what is the technology that they have. And this have compelled us to make studies on the structure of the stone terraces, studying on the drainage system that you find under the stone terrace that are much more complex than what we thought, and make a sort of assessment of the different typologies, and also make some reflection of the event that have been occurring in the past. Here the example, a very well-known example, the big flood that occurred in Florence in 1966. So the whole city was flooded. We had lots of damages, and it was a real disaster. And we had, you see, a huge event that would be repeated in terms of percentage every 50, 60 years. But what we found out, if we could restore all the terraced system existing in the upper Arno River Valley, Arno is the river of Florence, in the 50s, this would generate the same effect of the detention basins recently built to collect the water of a possible new flood. So they build up these retention basins. So when the Arno will increase its water level, it will flood before the city, and so this is just saving the city. But to restore the system will allow to go to the origin of the problem and also allow to cultivate. So this is simply an example to say that the intervention before these catastrophic events occur are less costly than intervention after a disaster. It's just a matter of having the maintenance occurring during the years. And with this knowledge, we are able to start a restoration project. In this case, you see an example right on the Cinque Terre, which cannot be considered really landscape project. Even in this conference, I see very often people say, okay, we planted a forest in a place, and this is a landscape project. Well, that's a project affecting the landscape, of course, but if you want to think of landscape level, you must have a landscape project at a bigger scale, considering the society, the economy, and the environment, harmonizing this process and having a vision of the future and where you go. This is the way you can really plan for something that will stay in the time. And what we're doing now is try to use this knowledge also outside Italy. Here there is an example of a project we have with the World Bank in Burundi, where they've been asking us to make a project to build new terraces in a place where it did not exist, try to reduce the problem of radiological risk and food. And so coming to also the idea that at least in Italy support the problem of maintaining this system in place, we think that we need a new idea for the quality of the rural territory. So the quality of the landscape and the environment together with the quality of the food is creating a new value, a full quality we call it, an added value that cannot be replicated by competitors. This means that a certain food produced in a specific place can have an opportunity to create a new value to add to the price of the food that you're producing there, that the customer has to know. In this way you can ask for more, and also you can open up this area to tourism, and this will foster the economy of the whole area. So the fact is that we have to find reason for which people would buy a product that costs more, and the experiences in China that were quite interesting from this point of view. And so just coming to my conclusions, I would say that the advantages of traditional agricultural system that can be summarized, at least for the Italian case, as follows. They're allowed to cultivate areas where modern agriculture is not convenient or cannot be applied. We've been abandoning 10 million hectares of farmed land in Italy. It means 30% of the whole country. And the fact is that not only farmers are living, but where it's not convenient, it means that you cannot adapt modern technology, you just live. And this is creating big problems, but you can cultivate actually using traditional techniques. They show better adaptation to changing environmental conditions. They're more diversified. They offer solutions for extreme events. And they often have a higher diversification of crops, allowing to reduce risk and to produce a higher variety of food. And in fact, they produce a higher variety of food and most of all, a higher quality of food. This is something that the customers have started to understand and to valorize. They preserve the biocultural diversity and contribute to the reduction of hydrological risk. Only for this reason, I would say it would be good that the government support these farmers for the role that they played in this respect. They create unique and attractive landscape, promoting tourism. From the region where I come from, Tuscany and Florence, we see that the Tuscany is the first region of Italy for agritourism. During the last 4 or 5 years, which has been the worst economic crisis that we had, we have lost like 22,000 jobs in the industry, about 12,000 in the services, but we have 5,000 more jobs in tourism, and agritourism has been continuously growing in the past 15 years with an offer which is increased by 350%. There's no other sector of the economy showing this increase. We must take advantage of these numbers. And what are the disadvantages? There are, of course, disadvantages for the Italian economic situation. These are labor-intensive activities, so you have a lot of labor, and of course, you have, if the labor doesn't pay off, I mean, the farmers will leave. So you need to find a way of making the customers buy this product that cost more because they require more labor. They need more land. If you want to put less energy inputs in the countryside, then you need to cultivate more. So you have to use more land rather than have intensified agriculture in smaller amount of land. The knowledge system is not formalized in science. If we try to replicate this system, first we need to fully understand how they're working. And with lack of scientific information, in my textbook that I have in my university, They say nothing about this. The same thing for the forestry part. I cannot find information on traditional systems that are in place in forestry. And small farmers are a political minority. This means that they're not interested to politicians. So in Italy, there are only 4% of the population that lives and operates in economic terms in in the countryside. So the majority of the people are citizens or live in villages, and the politicians are more ready to listen to these people rather to the need of the farmers. And also, since these small farmers are the ones that would need more subsidy from our common agricultural policy, they're not strong enough to get subsidy for their own. This style of farming is more likely that farmers using industrialized technology would get subsidies, and it's more likely that big food industries, like many that we have in Italy, will import commodities from outside Italy in order to produce Italian typical foods. And this means that just to do not spend a few euros more for 100 kilos of wheat cultivated in the traditional method, they send out of business a lot of small farmers, and no one is helping them. But actually, there are movements now that are being created locally that are producing according to traditional variety of wheat, that are contacting directly the customers, and there is a big response on this, so there is a hope that the system may help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mauro. Thank you. It's very fascinating to see how historically people have interacted with the environment and created systems that we could all take example from today, and how, you know, the terraces and the floods, it's very practical and very evident that you have a strong impacts of those systems on how they can cope with climate change. I would like to invite now Mr. Kingwen Min, who is the Vice Chairman of GIS Scientific Advisory Group of FAO, and also to note that China has a very long-term experience in these systems, and has been a partner on promoting them for more than 10 years already. So can you tell us today a bit about the honey rice terraces?
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be invited to join this very important event. And just mentioned with Mr. Katura about the GIS is very important, and I think maybe you know about the 5 criteria of the GIS. And I think, in my opinion, we should learn from the past for the future, and we can find some experiences from the traditional agriculture system. And okay. And the GIS, in 2002, FAO announced the important the program we call the globally important agriculture heritage systems. The China is the one of the first response, gave the positive response, and actively joined this program. And in June of 2005, on the support of the Chinese Ministry of Agriculture and the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the rice fish culture system in China, they are and more than 1,200 years the history. This traditional ecological agriculture practice was designated by the FAO as the first GIS site. And in 2012, the Ministry of Agriculture, on the support of the China Academy of Sciences, launched a new program we call the China Nationally Important Agriculture Heritage System, or the China NIAS program. And up to now, there are 91 the China NIAS sites was then designated by the Ministry of Agriculture, including the 11 GIS sites. Okay, we can find in 2005 the rice fish culture system, and then in 2000 and the honey rice terraces, and the traditional culture system, rice culture system in Jiangxi province. In 2011, the rice fish duck complex ecosystem in Guizhou province was designated as a GIS site. And 2012, and the dryland farming system in Inner Mongolia. And another one is about the traditional pro-tea agri-system in Yunnan province. In 2013, the one is the urban grape garden traditional system in Hebei province, and next one is about the Chinese in Zhejiang province, the Chinese Torreya system. And in 2014, the one is about the Duotian. We call it the stack field. It's very interesting, very good landscape in Jiangsu province. And next one is about the tea and the jasmine tea system. And last one is about the Chinese debt system in Shanxi province. So there are all of the 11 traditional systems as the GIS site. And today we should talk about some climate change. In my opinion, the GIS is a typical climate, the smart agriculture, because of in this traditional agricultural systems, we can find the low input, low consumption, low pollution, and low emission. And we can find some we can give some examples if you are interested later. And we can find the diversified output from this traditional system. And next is we can find plenty of the engineers' knowledge system of land and water management in the system. And last one is about the complex agro-ecosystem and landscapes. I just mentioned Mr. Professor Moore about this. Okay, I want to show a good example about the honey rice terraces. Honghe honey rice terraces systems is located in southwest China in Yunnan province. And in 2007, the honey rice terraces was designated by the China's National Wetland Park by the State Administration of the Forestry. And in 2010, FAO designated the GIS site to this system. And 2013, the UNESCO designates the World Heritage or Cultural Landscape. And at the same time, Ministry of Agriculture designates this system as the China NIAS and the China Cultural Heritage. Maybe if we are the general tourism, we can find the very beautiful landscapes in different seasons. For example, in winter, spring, and in summer, and in autumn. And about the honey rice terraces, we know there's a very long history, about 1,300 years. And only in the Honghe prefecture, there are about 70,000 hectares covered 4 counties. And not only this, we should study some scientific mechanism about the complex ecosystem, especially the hidden the beautiful and spectacular system and deeply understands the honey rice terraces. For example, the landscape, biodiversity, and culture, and soil and water management. Okay, I want to give the very good example about this. And it's currently we can find 2 facts. One is more and more serious drought disasters in southwest China, especially during this climate change. And at the same time, so we find the excellent performance of the honey rice terraces in severe drought, especially in 2009 to 2010. According to the Professor Xie gives the study, before 1979, in these areas, one severe drought occurred every 9 years, but after then, almost every year. And according to the Professor Liu's research, that is based on the data from the 124 the weather station in Yunnan province, can find during the last 40 years, the average annual precipitation decreased, but the air temperature has increased, so it dried. And from the autumn of 2009 to the spring of 2010, and the southwest China suffers a very serious drought. And in Yunnan province, including the Honghe honey terraces, is very serious. And the negative influence of the local farmers and the carers, their lives, and the decrease of the economic growth. However, we can find although the Honghe honey rice territories face the serious drought, but according to the Statistical Bureau of the Yunnan Province, this area, the grain yield was surprisingly not affected by the drought disasters, and even more, it is that the total grain yield in honey rice territories is rise for about 1 to 2%. And this incredible phenomenon attracts many scientists and media. In China, the CCTV, the Channel 1, the Fox interviews that is about the end drought inspiration from the rice territories. And CCTV, the Channel 7, and Agriculture, Science and Technology gives a special column about the secret of the honey rice territories. And the scientific, and the newspaper is about the China Science China Daily, is honey rice territories get through the extreme drought. And my teams makes a research project about why the honey rice territories can give the good performance about during this serious drought. And according to our research, maybe there are 4 reasons to relieve the severe drought. The first one is we can find the regional eco landscape, and the forest and dense villages and terraces and river landscape. We call it the 4-in-1 model. It's very important to maintain this sustainable of this system. Next one is the suitable water conservation woods or trees, because the forestry is very important, but it is not only the general the forest. We can find it's very important. These trees can make important the positives to the conserve of the water. We call it elder. A special and the dominant tree species plays very important roles in water conservation due to its unique root nodules and well-developed root system. And this is just a very simple experiment, and we can find after we dig a harbor of in this tree, the land, we can find 40 minutes later or 2 hours later, we can find some water. And the third one is a perfect water system. Yeah. So, yeah, we can find this. Sorry. Okay, the last one is ingenious water management. And local farmers, the honey people utilize and manage the water resources in a unique, simple, and economical and efficient manner. And we can find the ditch lead system makes a very long history, and we can find the cover stones or wood, the water ensures equitable, especially during the drought seasons, according to the land. And honey people's worship of the nature ultimately embodies in the worship of the tree, honey-represented trees, as a good, and safeguarding and bless them. There are at least 1 plot of the magic roots or sacred forest in the village in honey areas. In honey, the tree represents the nature, and there are a series of annual religious activities was in the tree. So, when we look at this, it's a very beautiful landscape. We should learn behind of the landscape, can find there's a profound ecological philosophy, a good ecological environment, the rich biodiversity, diverse agriculture products, and efficient resource utilization, and a strong traditional culture, and very beautiful landscapes. And I remember the FAO, there is a slogan of the GIS. GIS is not about the past, GIS is about the future. In my opinion, the GIS is a linkage between the past and the future. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Min. So we actually saw that it works, you know. In a drought event, you have better yields on terraces. So we don't need proofs anymore. We have everything we need. We will have questions from the audience at the end of this presentation round. I would like now to invite Rashid Musadek, from the INRA in Morocco, the National Institute of Agronomic Research. And well, if we can produce food in oases, then we can probably resist any drought.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good afternoon. We will share with you our experience in GIS in Morocco, mainly for oasis landscape, and how we could, if we adopt this approach, balancing the conservation and climate change adaptation and socioeconomic development. This is the main important thing. As you know, dryland is at our home of nearly 2 billion people, and nearly 40% of the world's surface, and mainly 60% in Africa. And the oases are part of this dryland. And the oasis zone are from ancient human efforts to develop this arid zone. So there is a history, and they established the agriculture activities around this limited water resource area. Oasis zone are specific area and mainly located in North Africa and also in Middle East. In the past, oases have played a crucial role through the history. And there was a need for trade routes and across deserts, as you see in these maps. For example, in Morocco, we have many places when in the past was like commercial cities in the oasis. But now, these oases are housing a large diverse community, and there are a significant portion in the Middle East and North Africa. For example, Morocco, it's more than 1.5 million inhabitants in this area. And they have an important economic activities. As you know, more than 75 world production for that are located in this area. And in this region also we develop what we call it now ecological tourism. And they are the most main resources for income for this isolated population. So oases have throughout history adapted to these difficult climate conditions. And they have also some exceptional and natural cultural agricultural heritage. They are rich in biodiversity because they are unique. They have unique flora and fauna characteristics and rich biodiversity. They have also a flora for tree system. You can find tree and also some, like for example, palm, and also some medicinal plant and pasture and crops. Also, there is a lot of cultural heritage. Many songs, dance are, it's history there, social history. And they have their unique oasis agro-farming system. Oases are area where intensive agricultural production is there, but with limited resources for many years, 1,000 years. So how, if we will learn from them how they can I say, produce with less resources. So what is needed now is to preserve this heritage and this biodiversity. Unfortunately, oases are also facing climate change as other region, but they also help to fight it against desertification. We have, by desertification, we have this land degradation. With climate, we also have this drought. It's structural. It's not conjunctural like as we say in China. It's oasis we live with drought. And we face also that we loss of diversity in this region, mainly animals and vegetables. This is the effect of climate change. But also oasis could control some effect of this climate change, like desertification, and they contribute to fight against, can I say, climate change effects. As you see here, it's the first line to fight desertification, and they increase the food security for the community, and also they reduce poverty. And that's why oasis is concerned by three conventions, which is UNFCCC and biodiversity and climate change due to the importance of this area. But what we need also is to shift to ecological intensification in this oasis, instead to adopt some intensification system. In fact, we need in this oasis to reposition agriculture from driving environmental degradation to mainstreaming ecological intensification. You know that from some degraded area, unfortunately, they have a lot of difficulties, but also, as we have seen in many oases in Morocco, that they are rich in biodiversity. They have also some indigenous knowledge, traditional techniques are also died for in food system. But we need to do some intensification in this area. Unfortunately, if we take, for example, in the intensive system, where we have a lot of difficulties related to, the industrialization agriculture, we need to make some more ecologization of this area, and we want also to learn from this region, like we say in Italy and China, how they develop some smart soil management, water use efficiencies, and durable productivities, and to merge all this approach from ecologization. We say in intensive system we need to reduce the use of pesticide, the use of fertilizers, and to move with ecological approach in the middle, as we want to increase the system adopted in oasis, but in, in ecological system. So this is why we want to emerge the development part of oasis agriculture. When, as our colleague present their GIS system, they are, have better experience in China and also in Italy. They have their historical, register. But in our region, this system is new. But they have, that in the many oases in the area have already the capacity to follow this 5 pillars of GIS. Because in the oasis, we have already developed by the history the food livelihood security. We have biodiversity, knowledge system, and the adopted technology is there. And also there is many cultural value system. And also a remarkable landscape. We'll see, we'll present one example here. And for us, we think that just in oasis fit with ecological intensification model, because for this area, we need to balance the dynamic conservation of all agricultural systems that we have in oasis, and with their multitude of goods and services, to develop some food security for now, and mainly also for the future generation. Here I will present the first Moroccan labels with GIS, which is, we call it oasis of Emil Shil Amelago. It's in the Atlas Mountain, and it's in the north, in Atlas. The site is, the total area is more than 300,000 hectares. We have also 6 rural communities. That population is also high, with more than 38,000 inhabitants. And the main important thing is that agricultural and livestock stocks are the main activities in the area. And agriculture play multifunctionality in this region, because they assure food security, and they can also assure the employment. And agriculture in this region have also some specification, like because the integration of crop and livestock in this region, for example, they develop what they call it traditional system for managing pasture. We call it agder, that the community develop their own way to preserve the pasture using their local knowledge, and they have some traditional rule. Concerning biodiversity, we found that in this area they have a huge biodiversity in terms of varieties, more than 98 varieties and 37 species. Animals also, we find some 5 local population that are found to sheep and goat, and also the Saharan African honeybee, which is very important. Concerning the flora, we also, based on this study, we defined that we have more than 400 species and more than 135 plants, which is endemic to this region, meaning that we have this huge biodiversity. And also, we have much aromatic and medicinal plant that we have in this region. Concerning the cultural heritage, there is one, can I say, international, it's national, but now it starts to be international fair that many tourists come to see this, can I say, this museum. We call it Museum of Female Shield. And we meet with the nomad tribu in this area. They are in this region. They celebrate, can I say, the marriage during this event, and it's a place of cultural exchange and communication with the different stakeholders. But when we get the label for GIAS, it was not the, can I say, the aim. When we get the label for GIAS, we try to convince our decision makers to make more effort to reduce the pressure of natural resources in this region. And from that, we get some positive, can I say, answer that we get some fund to, for this area, mainly for flood control, because we find that they have a lot of problem with land degradation. Also, we try to work with them in their way, how they use, construction of terraces that they have developed. And also we try from this, to answer also the food security, to introduce some, can I say, techniques, smart agriculture techniques like drip irrigation to improve the production, as we have some good result that farmers also could get some income after we introduce this, can I say, smart agriculture techniques. We also, we have in this region what we call it Khtara, which is, can I say, one of the ingenious system for conserving water. Drought is structural, and farmers by the history develop this technique to conserve water. And when we get this label for GIAS, we convince our decision makers to, the importance and the unique of this unique system. And we get some fund also to make some rehabilitation of this Khtara, and also to maintain the irrigation network adopted by farmers. Another point is that also it's important to introduce some, can I say, economy, because farmers need also to have more income, not only to say we conserve, but we will, as explained by my colleagues, we also need to increase income of farmers. So we develop also some women cooperatives that are working to, their local productivity to make more profit on this. And now they have their, can I say, label of, for example, here couscous, do it by their local varieties in Europe. And also, by this label, we do a lot of effort. We get also some fund from Jeff project to do some work on, to make some, can I say, work related to local varieties. We do a field survey. We collect some, local varieties of wheat, and we put all this, can I say, varieties in gene bank. Unfortunately, due to the climate, can I say, impact, we lost our biodiversity related to these varieties. But within this approach, we at least we have now keep and conserve some local varieties, and we try now to, can I say, to conserve this and to fight the introduction of the new varieties from industrial system. Here we just, me and my colleagues, Mrabat, want to share with you what we learned from this approach that we adopt in GIS system concerning the climate resilience options. That we think that in this WASIS, we have some agroecology system. We have also some use of organic amendment. We have also this, can I say, restoration of degraded soil, and also this complex farming system, but rich in biodiversity, which give us more technical options for make some ecological intensification, which is very important because we need to make improvements in agriculture through targeting and efficient use of resources, that we say produce more with less resources. And also we think that this ecological intensification system that we have in WASIS, we could upscale it to other regions because we need to move in this adaptation pathway that now this is the word that we discuss in this, can I say, in this issue related to climate change, how we can move in the adaptation. I think that we need more to do some incremental change than forcing some system to do some transformation. It's important to have this in mind that some areas are so fragile than to go and to do transformation directly. That's why now we move in Morocco to develop this approach for other sites, and we have now we'll submit more than 5 sites to the GIS team. For us, we think that for GIS, we need in WASIS, it's in concordance with the Paris Agreement, mainly in Article 7. WIN is clearly highlighted that it's need to protect the vulnerable site. Also, GIS should be, I think, reinforced by the international and national effort to conserve and to sustain the WASIS system. We have CCC and UNCDD and biodiversity. You have now in Morocco what we call Sustainable WASIS Initiative. We launched it in Marrakesh, and we want that other, can I say, organisms join this initiative. We have also, we think that GIS should be supported by science. I heard from my colleagues that there is a lot of need of research to understand how the system and the site work for many years, and to build also the 5 pillars based on the research and science. We know also that sectorial policy in agriculture, water, energy, tourism should convey also in integrated way to enhance the GIS impact. And finally, because we need also some fund, I think that we climate change fund also, like the green fund and adaptation fund, should support the development of to upscale this GIS to other regions. Okay, and thank you.
Thank you, Rashid. I like your conclusion as well, how we can upscale this, and we'll get back to this very soon. Before we start raising questions, we have a last speaker who cannot join today, but she's a farmer in Brazil. Her name is Elisangela Aquino, and she recorded a video for us, so she can join us and explain what she's doing in Minas Gerais in Brazil.
Meu nome é Elisângela, né? Elisângela Ribeiro de Aquino. Sou geraizeira, né? Moro aqui no assentamento Tapera, aqui no município de Riacho dos Machados, e é uma honra, né? Antigamente, quando a gente falava que era assentada e que era mulher, era uma coisa que sempre trazia muita timidez, né? E hoje morar num assentamento de reforma agrária, ser mulher e ocupar de fato um espaço como mulher, para mim é muito importante. Eu tenho certeza que, de fato, tudo que a gente faz é resistência, assim. A agricultura familiar, ela é uma coisa muito resistente, porque é uma coisa de vida. O que é de vida fica, né? O que é de vida fica. Então, assim, discutir para mim hoje essa questão e fazer enfrentamento hoje quanto agricultora, viver num assentamento de reforma agrária, entender tanta dificuldade que a gente tem, tanto política, né? Hoje a gente vive uma crise política, né, no Brasil, mas a gente aqui no semiárido, a gente aprendeu muito, né? Assim, de tanto que a gente vai em outras localidades, a gente vai discutir também essa questão da importância da semente crioula, né, para a agrobiodiversidade, porque quando a gente fala agrobiodiversidade, a semente é uma pequena parte dela. A agrobiodiversidade é um contexto muito mais amplo que a gente está discutindo, né? Desde a formiguinha, do direito da formiga sobreviver, até o direito nosso do ser humano. Né? Então, assim, quando a gente discute essa questão, para a gente ela é muito forte. Né? E nós, agricultores, a agricultura familiar, ela tem tido uma importância muito grande. Né? Ela tem tido uma importância muito grande, que é de resistir, que é de guardar semente, que é da autonomia do agricultor, né? Desde a autonomia do agricultor até a sustentabilidade. Não existe agricultura sustentável sem autonomia, né? E quando o agricultor tem a semente, quando ele guarda a sua semente, ele está guardando a autonomia dele, né? Então, assim, esse processo ele é muito importante, né? Ele é muito importante. E aí a gente tem muitas coisas que a gente tem feito como resistência. Primeiro é o quarto de bagunça, que eu chamo de quarto de bagunça, porque a gente guarda muita coisa, a gente tem 50, 100 diversidade de sementes, então é tudo acumulado dentro desses quartos de bagunça. E aí a gente, quanto agricultor, e pensando no fortalecimento da agricultura familiar, a gente pensa uma estratégia mais longe, porque eu costumo dizer, e aí é muito engraçado, tem gente que olha para mim e ri, que agricultor também é pesquisador. Né? Agricultor também é pesquisador. E aí a gente pensa uma estratégia diferenciada, que é fazer um banco de semente comunitário, que é fazer com que a comunidade inteira ela tenha uma visão diferente, que a agricultura ela seja mais fortalecida com um banco de semente comunitário. Né? Então, assim, existem muitas estratégias, né? A agricultura familiar ela tem muitas estratégias. Eu falo que aqui no município de Riacho dos Machados, a agricultura familiar é que sustenta esse município, né? É que põe comida na mesa, de fato, dos doutores que está aí com a mineração destruindo a nossa região. Né? A gente está numa cidade semiárido. E que é a gente que sustenta esse povo, porque ninguém come ouro, né? Ninguém come eucalipto, ninguém bebe isso. Né? A gente bebe a água porque é vida. A gente come comida porque vem da semente, vem da diversidade. Ninguém come só arroz, ninguém come só feijão, então a gente come uma diversidade. Isso vem da agricultura familiar, porque é só a agricultura familiar que tem diversidade. Né? Eu nunca fui numa monocultura, por exemplo, num grande empresário, que ele tivesse uma diversidade de feijão, de andu, de feijão catador, de laranja, de banana. Essa diversidade você não encontra. Então, de fato, quem sustenta, quem ainda guarda, quem protege a agrobiodiversidade é a agricultura familiar. Então, por isso, eu vejo essa grande importância, né? E a necessidade da gente continuar, porque antigamente eu tinha um quarto de bagunça que tinha toneladas de arroz, milho e feijão. Hoje eu não tenho toneladas, mas a quantidade e a diversidade que eu tenho, não tem milhão que paga isso, porque isso é história, né? Guardar dentro de um quarto de bagunça 10 variedades de feijão, são 10 histórias de vida diferentes. Guardar uma variedade de milho que chama coruja, que veio do meu avô, é guardar a história de vida do meu avô. Então, assim, para nós agricultores, a agricultura familiar é muito além do que isso, de produzir comida, né? Então, a gente tem coisa que a gente guarda só pela história de vida, né? Porque, assim, é de 200 anos atrás e alguém veio repassando e chegou na gente. Então, assim, a agricultura familiar, ela tem essa importância. Mas descobrir de fato, né? E aí é uma história muito importante, porque foi o CA que me ajudou a descobrir isso, né? Quando eu vim para um rancho de Carvoeira, trabalhar para uma empresa, né, chamada CIGAF, e que não tinha dignidade nenhuma, era como se estivesse enterrando minha história, porque o que eu queria fazer não era aquilo. Né? E aí essa instituição CA, né, chega aqui na região, né, de Riacho dos Machados e começa a discutir com a gente a importância, né, quando foi discutir o assentamento em 98, a importância de cultivar a terra, a importância de ter a terra, mas a importância de cuidar dela de fato. Quando o CA chegou e começou a cultivar, aquilo foi desadormecendo de dentro do meu coração. Aquilo que meu pai me ensinou, aquilo que ele sempre pregou, foi desadormecendo. E eu fui descobrir que tudo aquilo que a gente fazia há anos, chamava agrobiodiversidade. Era um saber popular de anos atrás e que graças à equipe técnica, que graças aos pesquisadores ajudou a gente a descobrir isso. Então, isso foi um processo muito importante assim na minha vida, né? O aprendizagem popular que meu pai e minha mãe me ensinou, né? Desde a história de muito pequena, plantou isso no meu coração. E também, quem me de fato desadormeceu foi o CA. E a necessidade da vida, né? Porque ter 3 filhos, já tinha bem guardadinho dentro de mim que eu já tinha 3 sementes e que precisava da sustentabilidade. Então, essa época, em 98, quando o CA chegou aqui para ajudar a gente a fazer um assentamento diferenciado, a discutir, né, que de fato a gente não precisava só da terra para produzir comida, mas a gente precisava de dignidade, a gente precisava também de sustentabilidade, então a gente precisava da terra viva, né? Então, desde 98 é que de fato, eu me descobri que eu era uma guardiã da agrobiodiversidade. Coisa que é boa, que faz parte da vida da gente, não foge da memória do agricultor, não, né? E esse projeto da FAO foi um projeto que foi muito rico para a agricultura familiar, que contribuiu muito, né? Inclusive, eu lembro da importância dele na unificação da luta dos agricultores, né? Porque ele foi um projeto que veio com esse propósito, né? Com esse diferencial de fazer com que fortalecesse as feiras, né? As feiras locais, que fortalecesse o encontro, né? Dos agricultores. E aí teve um passo que foi muito importante, né? Que o CA, com esse projeto da FAO, contribuiu com a gente, que foi um passo muito importante, que foi unificar a luta e fazer intercâmbio dos agricultores do norte de Minas com o Vale do Jequitinhonha. Então, de fato, esses projetos, eles vêm somar, né? Eles vêm fortalecer a agricultura familiar e algumas coisas que já são existentes, né? Mas a gente precisa, de fato, desses momentos, né? Então, esse projeto da FAO, ele teve uma importância muito grande, né? Hoje a gente tem um plano, né? A gente conseguiu nesse projeto, foi um projeto que eu, quanto agricultora, consegui acompanhar de perto. Então, hoje a gente conseguiu fazer um plano com 5 linhas de ação, né? E aí a gente vive na luta, né? Observando, né? E foi um projeto que possibilitou abrir portas para a gente, para novos, né? Para novas possibilidades de recursos para a gente dar continuidade aos pontos. Os pontos, né, que a gente tinha discutido. Foi um projeto que fortaleceu o Banco de Semente Comunitário e do Banco Regional, né, que esse projeto contribuiu muito para o fortalecimento desse banco Germoplasma, que é o banco mãe, né, que está na área do CA. Então, assim, foi um dos projetos que o CA, né, foi protagonista e conseguiu executar, que mais possibilitou, né, o fortalecimento desses processos na agricultura familiar.
So, thank you, Elisangela, and for reminding us of the importance of agrobiodiversity as a heritage as well, in particular in family farming. So now we're going to ask questions to our panelists, but I think we have someone in the floor, Amaru Torres, who would like to make a comment or raise a question in the name of young farmers, and in particular of the Asociación de Trabajadores del Campo in Nicaragua. Is Amaru with us?
¿Puedes traducir?
¿Cuál es la traducción oficial?
No hay traducción, solo portugués y yo hablo español.
Okay.
Bueno, agradezco el espacio. Yo vengo de una organización campesina en Nicaragua que está vinculada a la Vía Campesina Internacional, un organismo que acumula a más de 2 millones de campesinos alrededor del mundo. Yo quería hablar sobre el tema de...
Your name again, please, sir?
Amaru Torres.
Amaru Torres, he comes from La Vía Campesina in Honduras, right?
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, I'm so sorry. And he represents a number of farmers in Nicaragua. ¿Cuántos?
A nivel global, la Vía representa 2 millones de agricultores, de campesinos.
Okay, 2 million farmers at global level.
Yo voy a hablar directamente de mi experiencia. Yo soy antropólogo, quiero hablar desde mi experiencia directa con los pueblos originarios de mi país y el campesinado en general.
He will talk about his experience with the originary people from the land and farming.
Cuando hablamos de pueblos originarios, por lo menos en Nicaragua, no solo estamos hablando de que tienen un conocimiento que es heredado, sino también de que este conocimiento está basado en reglas que no están dentro de nuestra sociedad actual, reglas que van más allá del mercado. Este tipo de conocimiento generalmente en estas sociedades está regido por una forma de entender el mundo, nosotros lo llamamos cosmovisión.
When we talk about indigenous peoples, it goes beyond the principles of market, and it follows rules that are not guided by the market and that are guided by a cosmovision.
La cosmovisión es una forma en la que estos pueblos originarios entienden su conexión con la tierra y con el cosmos en general. Por darle un ejemplo, un pueblo mayagna, un pueblo originario de Nicaragua, que es el que protege la reserva Bozaguás, la reserva más grande de toda Centroamérica. Este pueblo, en su modo de entender el mundo, ven la salud no como algo propio del cuerpo, del organismo humano, sino como la salud de algo integral que está asociado a todo el medio ambiente.
In this understanding, indigenous peoples see their relation with the earth and with the environment from a different perspective. Health issues are seen in a holistic way.
Si por lo menos el medio ambiente en el que ellos viven está contaminado, para ellos eso es parte de una enfermedad. Por eso es que ellos protegen tanto la salud del medio ambiente y tienen un sistema que está basado principalmente en prácticas de policultivo y prácticas orgánicas.
If they see that their environment is polluted or is unhealthy, they cannot engage properly with the environment surrounding them. That's why their practices are mainly based on organic practices and polyculture. Thank you.
En el caso de los campesinos, encontramos lo mismo. El campesino se caracteriza por el policultivo y las prácticas orgánicas. Pero desde que vino la Revolución Verde, nosotros en Nicaragua solemos decir, desde que el mercado puso una de sus manos en las comunidades campesinas, sus prácticas han venido cambiando. Entonces nace el monocultivo, el uso de pesticidas, prácticas que no son amigables con el medio ambiente.
Ever since the Green Revolution came about, farmers have seen, let's say, their practices being modified because of the use of different chemicals in farming practices. But you do speak English, and also the fact of the monocultures as well.
Entonces tenemos que entender, nosotros en nuestra organización trabajamos el tema de la agroecología y solemos decir que nosotros no les estamos enseñando nada nuevo a los pueblos campesinos, los estamos ayudando a recordar lo que ellos ya sabían y que han olvidado a causa del agronegocio, de la agroindustrialización de las que han sufrido y que los ha convertido en meros empleados del gran capital.
Basically, the work we have been doing is to remind farmers about agroecology and how these practices have been part of their ancestry, and how agribusiness sometimes makes them forget this notion.
Entonces creo que una pregunta concreta sería la de si es posible sostener una economía global que respete los derechos de la madre tierra, o que si deberíamos pensar en un nuevo sistema más localista, porque allá hay estudios que demuestran que la industrialización de la alimentación, toda esta industria que hay alrededor de la alimentación, la que contribuye alrededor de entre el 45 y 57% de los gases de efecto invernadero. Entonces, I wonder if you can talk with us. If there is possible that we can build an economy that can't be destructive with Mother Earth, and at the same time, it is possible to combine to balance the practicals of ancestral system that is not that in his principles is very opposite to what our actual system of producing and consuming is about today.
So who would like to answer this question? I think it also links to how we can scale up all these heritage systems that we have.
Usted habla inglés muy bien. So no entiendo por qué tiene que una traducción. Necesita una traducción. Well, the thing is that concerning the GX, you are asking us a very big question, which is a question which is a global importance that should be, in my view, replied more effectively by economists or important economists. The stage where we are with this project, it's to start to take care of the systems in terms of maintaining this knowledge. Because, of course, the global economy is going to destroy this community. Okay, so you will have a problem with this community, go out of business, and they stop. But the first step in order to maintain this system in place is to fully understand how they work. Otherwise, I cannot develop political strategies. I make for you the example of my position. I was in charge of a commission in Italy for the National Plan of Rural Development. We did have the money, and we are asking us for strategies for maintaining this system. So this strategy, of course, can take care of the global markets, but first of all, we need to know how to support this system. And to support the system require, first of all, to deal with this kind of knowledge that the farmers have. Otherwise, I cannot develop a support for them. In order to be more clear, if I want to maintain, if you see my presentation, there were stone terraces system. These are totally made by local farmers. Okay, so when they cannot survive on the market, they just leave, and this system collapses. Fine. So how can I maintain them having the possibility to develop a policy? First of all, I need to understand how these systems are built, what are the requirements to be there in place, and to find a way to have a marketing strategy for these farmers in order to survive producing their food. So two things, and this, for me, I was in charge of deciding the amount of money that I would give to the maintenance of this system, and my problem was that I didn't know what was the requirement, the technical requirement. So to understand the amount of money that you give to maintain the system in place, I need to know how much their cost, what is the material, what is the function, and so I can prepare the subsidy. Because in Italy, it's in the common agriculture policy, I give subsidies. And we found out that we didn't know nothing. So we could only give the money to the farmers to maintain the system, but this is not helping them to find a strategy and to fight what you are saying. So I have to create politically the condition for allowing them to survive, continue to maintain these traditional practices and to produce the system. So it's a thing that for me, at least for my experience, have to start from a survey at national level in order to understand all this situation, and then this will make me in the position to create a policy, and then I need to have the consensus from the society. If all of us don't buy the food from these farmers and we buy the food from the big multinational companies, they do not survive. So I need to know that these farmers exist, what they are producing. I need to understand that this food comes from this area, and if I buy this food, I help these farmers to be alive. How can I reach the community, I mean, the people in the world, and give them this message? This is another big problem that I have. So part of the job that we are doing for now, I would say, is the first stage. We are trying to understand all this system, try to find a way of promoting this system, to promote the knowledge of this system in order to create a consensus both in the policymaker and in the public. What I have to say, coming to your question, that when I did in Italy, I don't know, Professor Min, in China, this national register of its traditional historical landscape and so on, I thought that I was doing a job mostly for people like me, a professor, studies and science, and for policymakers. I wanted to inform them. Okay. Then, when I started to be invited in all these places by the local community, who knew that I made this list where there was included, I found out that the most interested one were the communities. Because what we were telling them is that they were important. They have dignity. They were giving back the dignity because they feel abandoned, lost. Nobody takes care. They are alone. So they were inviting me to tell them that, okay, you are a national landscape of Italy, and say we are proud that we are a national landscape, an historical landscape of Italy. Because for the first time, someone was going there and say, you're not doing wrong because you destroy the environment, you're not doing wrong because you don't understand anything of economy, you're not doing wrong because you don't know how to meet the current market strategy. I was telling them, you did good, your ancestors did good, and what you are maintaining in place is important. This is also something that we have to do, to give dignity to the farmer, to give voice to a farmer, to feel them that are important. Otherwise, they will feel to be the last one in the society, and they will leave. I don't know if I reply your question, but this is at least my personal story.
Thank you, Professor. So we need understanding, recognition, right incentives, probably metrics as well, to scale up those systems. Do we have another question from the floor? Yes? Would you like to use the microphone in the aisle, please?
Hello. My name is José Undurraga from Chile. I'm studying in Bern University of Applied Science. I have a question to Dr. Mosaic from Morocco, from the case of Morocco, particularly related with how do you think, and the team of the research, do you think the ecological intensification model that do you think could work in the oasis areas could be really implemented, practically implemented, and this is considering the difficulties that you could challenge because of cultural differences with the livestock producers. They are type of nomad producers on the mountains. So how you can reduce that gap and talk to them and try to reach an effective, innovative new system that could benefit at the end the ecological system in that particular territory.
Okay, thank you for this interesting question. In fact, you know, as you see from this presentation, we are coming to this GIS system recently. So this is also answer for our colleagues that when we understand this GIS, we should start by finding one site, and this site should also convince our decision makers to know that there is a lot of effort to do to conserve, because those example of sites with, you know, this knowledge and also this, can I say, this traditional system are available, but unfortunately nobody care about. So from this experience, we found also that in the many oasis region, there is, can I say, a huge demand of, for example, medicinal plants. And when the farmers now start to do some intensification, but unfortunately there is not enough resources and not enough waters. And from that, we try to convince them to adopt some climate smart approach that don't destroy the system. Or, for example, organic farming, or some approach that use less fertilizers and don't use pesticide. And mainly, the most important thing also is the varieties. They need to conserve and to don't use that varieties that are available in other places than in their in the locality. So what we need is to develop an ecological intensification system without using, the bad practices like, a huge amount of pesticide and also a lot of fertilizer, which is something available if farmers just focusing on income. That's why our experience is different than China and Italy, because they have already the process developed in their country. I think the historical register, or China, they have this already decision makers are aware about the importance of this heritage system. But we are now happy that our decision makers understand the importance of this GIAS site, and we want to develop what we call it now, not a GIAS, but NIAS, National Initiative. We are in the process, which is something that starts, but from this system, we want also to learn some approach that they have developed in the past, and to present it to the future generation. This is the dilemma. This is what we need, and I think that a lot of effort should be done in the community, a scientific community, because there is a lot of science there, and we need to understand this, research question also.
Thank you, Rashid. If we don't have any more questions, I think we will need to close this event. So I think we have two very important points made today. The first one is that basically we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we can get inspiration from those agricultural heritage systems that our ancestors developed to adapt to particularly harsh conditions. And the second one is that now that we understand them better, we need to put in place the right conditions for scaling them up. And this has to do with knowledge, it has to do with the right economic incentives, the right policies, and probably regulation. We heard about labels, for example, that can help. And probably what we need now is action at national level. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our panelists. And thank you for a very interesting question today.